Hey friends, welcome back to CodeStart Academy. So in this tutorial, I will be teaching you everything that you need to get started with functions. All right. So at the end of this video, you would understand function declaration and function call, and as well, you know how to use them. All right. So let's get started. So first things first, what is a function? A function is just a reusable block of code. So you have a piece of code that is reusable. As simple as that. That's what a function is. Very good. So why do we need functions? So I'm going to explain it. I'm going to do a refresh of, one of our classes, and then with that you will understand what, why functions. Okay. So in a case where you want to, print out your first and last name, right, in multiple places, so you do something like this, right? Console log, and then you have your backtick, and you have let's say your first name is John, and then you have your last name is Doe, and then you do this, right? You save it. Now let's replicate this in multiple lines. So we have this in about 7 lines. Okay, so imagine for some reasons you now change your first name. The implication of that is that you would have to go to every point where you have written John and then change it to Smith. Let's say you changed your first name to Smith, and then you have to do it in every single area. Imagine you have done this in 1,000 places. It will be a waste of time changing in 1,000 different locations. And secondly, you can even have human errors, mistakes, where you're trying to write Smith, you write Smite or something like that. So in order to avoid this problem, we need to save our first name and last name in a variable. So to do that, we say let first name equal to, you can call this John, and then you say let last name equal to Doe, and that's it. And with this, you're good to go. So let's see how we can print first and last name again, and let's see what it's going to look like. Log, and then do this. We're going to say first first name, and then again last name. So this, we have this. And once we have this, we do this John Doe, right? John Doe. So imagine that we have this in different lines. That is, like we had it before, 7 lines, and we have this John Doe. And for some reason, you now changed your first name from John to Smith. All you just have to do is just change this John to Smith. Since all this variable is still referencing this, right? Just come here and change this to Smith. And then you see that you have helped yourself. You would not have errors, less errors, and of course it's faster. And then this is why we have variables, to save a particular information somewhere, and call it anytime we need it. That's exactly what functions also do. Instead of writing something that helps you to do something in 10 different places, why not you just wrap it in a function, since it's doing the same thing, and then call that function in 10 different places. That's why we need a function. So I'm going to remove all this so that we will start understanding what function is. Now, first of all, let's understand how to declare a function and also call a function. First, I'm going to teach you how to do it in 2 different ways. We have a way to do it in ES5, and we have another way to do it in ES6. So the ES6 is the modern way, and of course, we're going to stick to ES6, right? But I'll just show you how to do it in ES5. To do that, in ES5, first of all, you need to use the function keyword, and then use a function, right? And then what does the function do? You name the function according to what it does. So we want to write a function that adds 2 numbers. So we're going to say add 2 values, right? And then here, sorry, then you do this, right? So after the name, you bring your parentheses, and then your curly braces, and everything you want the function to do, you're going to put here. So first of all, I want to create a variable called let variable1, the first variable, So I'm going to call val1, right, equal to, call it 1, and then let val2 equal to 2. And then I want to add this to, I'm going to say console the log, right, then I'm going to say val1 plus val2, save my work, and then come here. Now I have declared this function, but I have not called it. So when you go to your browser, you would not see anything. You won't see anything. So in order to call this function, you do this. Now say add vals, and then just call it like this. Oh, sorry. Just call it. So to call your function, just that same name. Make sure you copy that same name. Remember, this is case sensitive. So if you start with an uppercase A, it will not see it like the same function, right? So make sure you copy the same thing, and then once you do this, you save it, and then you see it has called it 3. 2 plus 1, 3. And then you'll be wondering, what's the difference between a function declaration and a function call? Okay, one of the simplest way to understand this is this. Okay, you need someone to drive you every day, right, in your house. Okay, what do? That you need to hire a driver. Good. So, of course, you hired a driver, right, who would drive you every morning. But the fact that you hired a driver does not mean the driver is driving you at a point, right? So function declaration is just like hiring the driver. Function call is like when you're asking the driver to drive you at a particular point, right? Do you understand that? I hope it's clear, right? So you can just hire the driver and he's just sitting in his office in your house, just sitting, waiting to be called. So this function call is when you're actually asking that driver to now do something. This one, you are just declaring it, telling, okay, this is what you're going to be doing. This is what you're going to be doing, right? Right? I hope that is very clear, right? Please, if you have any question, please don't forget to reach in the comment section. So that's the difference between a function declaration and a function call. And if you have not called a function, you would not see the result, okay? So that's why it's at the point where we call this function, we got this result. Good. Now let me teach you the second way of declaring a function, and it's the ES6 method. So to do that, use the const keyword, and then after that, say add. This time around, let's say add 2 numbers. Or if I try to say add 2 values, watch what it's going to tell me. Right? Watch what it's going to tell me. Okay. I say let me copy this same guy. Let me copy the same guy and put here. And then, of course, this is already 2 same functions. 2 same functions. It's not supposed to be, right? It's not supposed to be. So, watch what's going to happen. It will be confused as at which function I'm calling. So I come here and I save this guy also. Look at it. Has already been declared, so you can't. That means you cannot name 2 functions with the same name. So we have to change this one. Let's change this one to add 2 numbers. Add 2 numbers, right? Always remember to use your naming convention, and that's the camel case that I used here. So we have it. So 3 3. I can just change this guy to 4, and then we should have 6 for this one. And then make sure that you also made this one, right? And then save your work, and then you see 3 6. So this is the difference between the ES6 and the ES5. So the ES6 seems to be a lot cleaner, so we are going to continue with ES6 for consistency. All right, very good. And of course, you'll be wondering again, how come? Because I remember in the last class we tried to name a variable with the same name that we have already declared a previous variable, and it flagged us. But this time around, this is var1, this is var1. It's not flagging us. Why? It is because of scope. And that brings us to another topic, scope. Scope, right? This is within a block. So this variable is only seen, is only visible. It has its potency just within this block. Anything outside this block, this variable is not seen. Is not existing anywhere as outside of this block. That's where we have scope, right? But here, because it is not within any block, right? It's accessible from anywhere, right? So I can access this guy from anywhere, right? But I can't access this guy from anywhere because this guy is inside a block, but this guy is not inside a block. So this guy is like a global variable. Anybody can access it, right? But this guy is within a block scoped. So it's like within a function block, right? So this is a local variable, while this one is a global variable. Okay, so that's just the difference. Okay, so good. Now that we have learned how to declare a variable and also to declare a function, also call a function. All right, we can go ahead. Let's do something, something a little bit more advanced here. To do that, let's have a variable that let's have a function that concatenates your first name and your last name, right? So to do that, I'm going to say const. I can say, let me name it concat names, right? And then here say this. So this concat names. So I'm going to say console.log, and I'm going to put my backtick here and then do. Remember this first name, right? Last name. And then when I save this, remember this is just a function declaration. I have to call this function for you to see the result here. You will not see the result until I call it. So I'm going to say concat names, and I'm going to do this, and then you see that I have Smith do exactly how we have it here. Okay, now that we have known this, let's learn something, an advanced way, right? An advanced way, and that is parameterized functions. So what are parameterized functions? Parameterized functions are just functions that have parameters, right? If you look at this parenthesis here, it's empty. It means it's not a parameterized function. But there are cases where you need to, pass in some parameters. So look at this. If I call this concat names, if I call it again and again and again, right? Sorry. We still have the same results. Smitho, right? Imagine, right? But with parameterized functions, we can have, depending on the parameters you pass, you'll get a different result, okay? Which makes it more interesting, right? So good. So let's create a parameterized function. So I'm going to say still a function that concats names, right? Concat, I'll call it concats, or concats names. Let me just call name value, right? Okay, and I'm going to do this. Now, do this, and then we have this. Now, I want this function to take in two parameters, right? Just like this one. This is not taking in any parameter, but it's accessing the first name and the last name from this global variable. But this one, I want to make it, a local variable. So it's going to take in two parameters. It's going to take in, this time around, I don't want to use the first and the last name. I want to use maybe maiden name and middle name, something like that. So I'm going to come here and say maiden name, and then middle name here. So I'm going to come here and then do console.log. So I'm going to say maiden name, and then also do this middle name, and then I want to call this concat val, and then I'm going to say concat name value, and then I'll pass in. Good. This time I want to pass in the maiden name and the middle name. So let's assume that remember that this function takes in two parameters. So when I'm also calling the function, I should also pass in those two parameters. But this time, they are not called parameters. They are called arguments. So the difference between a parameter and arguments is that the parameter is the one you pass in when you are declaring it, while arguments is the one you pass in when you are calling it. That's just the difference. Sometimes people interchange it, but that's just the idea, okay? So here, I want to pass in maiden name, so I'm passing rows here, and then middle name I can pass in Emmanuel, okay, and I save my work, and then you see this Rose Emmanuel. And now look at the beautiful thing about parameterized functions is I can pass in different values. I can come here and pass in Daniela, and here I can pass in Owen, and then I have this. You see that? So I can keep calling the same function, pass different parameters, and I will get different results. That's the beautiful thing about parameterized functions, right? And of course, I hope you understand. So why parameterized function? Why? Look at it. There are some times, right, that some variables are not constant, which means they change. For example, my name is not, it may not be the same with your name. My age may not be the same with your age. So I want a case where I pass my age and do some calculation with my age. It should give me a result unique to me, right? And yours too, a result unique to you. So that's why. And so let's do a very simple exercise to wrap up everything that we have learned about function declaration, parameterized functions, and function calls. And we're going to do a very simple BMI calculation to calculate your BMI. So what is BMI? Body mass index, right? How do you do your body mass index, right? It's just a way of getting your mass in kg and also getting your height in meter. And to get your body mass index value is just do your mass divided by the square of your height. That's all. And to do that, I'm going to say const calc BMI, and I say this, right? Okay, do this and then do this. Sorry, and then do this. So the BMI, remember I said that the BMI takes into parameters the height and the mass. And remember that mass and height is something unique to everybody. So that's why we cannot make it a global variable, because it always changes with people. So each time the function is called, right, it should change. So here I'm going to pass in the mass of the person, and here I'm going to pass in the height of the person, right, as parameters. So this is just saying that this function takes in a mass and a parameter of that person. That's just what it's saying, right? Remember? And then here we are going to do the calculation. Here we're going to say let BMI, so I'm going to say BMI value, right? So I'm going to say BMI value. I'm going to say, to do that, so I'm going to say mass divided by what? Height. The height would be what? Square of the height. So we're going to say height, the square is just, that value multiplied by itself. So height, and I have this. So I'm going to now console this value, console.log BMI, right? I have this, good. Now let me now call this function, right? I'm going to say calc BMI, and I'm going to pass in the mass. So let's assume that I am 75 kg in mass, 75 kg, and imagine that I am my height is about 5 meters. Almost that's practically impossible, right? 5 meters is way too much, right? But let's say 5 meters, just to get simple calculation. But I'm not sure. The average height is about 1.5, 1.6 meters, if I'm correct. So here I'd say 5 meters. I'm going to pass 5 here. So what do we expect? We're expecting 75 divided by square root of 5. That should be 75 divided by 25. It should give us like 3. So when you do this and save your work, and then you see we have 3 here. So now let's reuse this function, right? I've created a function that takes in mass and height. Now this is mine. Another person can just come here and then call this, pass it his own. His own might be 100 and his height might be 2, right? And he saves his work and then he gets this result 25. So do you see that? Another person calls his own, and then his own is 50, and then this is 1.5, and he saves it, and he has this 22.2222. So do you see that? Just by calling this function, we're getting this. Imagine having to rewrite this thing as many times as possible. Why not you just wrap it in a function and call the function many times. So this is it. This is how to write a very simple BMI function, right? I hope you enjoyed this video, and please, in case you have any question or things or doubt, things you're not clear about, please reach out on the comment section. I will respond, okay? And also remember to like and subscribe in case you got any value from this video. Thank you very much and have a blessed day. Bye.